All right, so we are gonna keep on building our room class together. Unit 3 has to do with a lot of Booleans, if statements, all that fun stuff. So let's add some if statements to our class. First things first, let's make a method that will allow us to change one of the size parameters for our room. So let's say we make a public method. This method doesn't need to return anything because we're just going to edit one of our instance variables. So we don't need to return anything. So this is going to be a void method. So we have public void. And let's say we want to change our height. We'll call this set height. If I'm going to be setting the height for my room and do some renovating, we need to know what our new height is going to be. So we'll get a single parameter, int new height. So we're going to get a new parameter. Now, we want to make sure that our height is not going to be out of bounds before we start renovating. So we don't want our height to be anywhere 0 or below, because it's not really possible to have a room with literally no height. So we can add an if to check if the new height that we're getting, if that new value, if that new height is greater than 0, then we can system.out.print line renovating the height of the room, and we can say height equals new height. We can adjust our height instance variable to have that new value, as long as our value that we received is not out of bounds. If it is out of bounds, let's do an else. We can system.out.print line that height doesn't work. Semicolon. So this method is going to let us do renovations, but only if our new height value is a valid size. So let's, after we've printed out our basic room and our office, let's try changing the height of our basic room. Say basic room dot set height. And let's try a height of, let's go with -5. And let's try and print our basic room again. So if I run this, we've got our basic room with a width, height, and length of 10, volume of 1,000. We have our office with width, height, and length of different values, 10, 20, 15, with its own volume. And we see that height doesn't work. So our basic room still has width, height, and length of 10. So it still has a volume of 1,000. If I change my height, let's say I want my height to be 30. We're going to push the ceiling of our room up because that's totally possible to do without any problems, any structural issues. Now, let's add a new line here so that we have a little bit more space in between our outputs. All right, so we've got our basic room with a width, height, and length of 10. We've got our office room, same as before. Now we're renovating our height of our room. We could add something to our class to make it a little bit clearer which room we're renovating. So we can run this again. We are renovating the height of the basic room, so we now know which room we're renovating. And now our room has a width of 10, a height of 30, and a length of 10. So our volume is now 3,000, which seems to have worked. There, hair on my mouth. All right, so that works perfectly. We are making sure that our new height, when we try to do a renovation, is not out of bounds. It's not too small. Now, how might we check whether two rooms that we've created are the same? We could compare their volumes. We could compare their length and height. We could compare a variety of different things. So something that I can't do right now is just compare my office to my basic room. So I can't say if office equals basic room, then system.out.println those rooms are the same. And the reason we can't do that is because office and basic room, both of those are references to some room data. So even if they had the same contents, those are different references. So those rooms are never going to be the same. What we want to do is we want to create a method in our room class where we can compare a room to a different room. So we're going to make a public equals method to check if our current room that we're looking at is equal to a second room. The return type for this is going to be a Boolean. We want to return true or false. Yes, these rooms are the same. No, they are not the same. And our parameter is going to be another room variable, another room object. I'm going to call it other room. So we've got our first room is going to just be using the length, width, height, and name values. And our other room is going to be using whatever values are stored in that variable, in that object. So what should we compare to see if two rooms are equal to each other? Feel free to put your answers in chat if you don't want to say them out loud.
The dimensions, and I suppose, yeah, just all the dimensions you could compare.
My headphones might have malfunctioned. Did you give an answer, Ryan? I saw you talk, but I did not hear anything.
Can you hear me? I guess you can't hear me.
All right, headphones, why are you being bad? Yeah, my headphones are just not working right now. Check the dimensions. All right, let's check the dimensions. Thank you for typing in the chat. I don't know what's going on with the headphones. So for our, let's check that the dimensions are the same. Yes. So let's make a Boolean same length equals our length for our current variable, or for our current object, is the same as our other room dot length. Boolean same width equals our current width, whether that's the same as our other room dot width, and our same height is whether our current room's height is the same as our other room's height. Okay. So if these are all true, then we know we have a room with the same dimensions. In order to check if two rooms are the same, then we also want to make sure that they are the same type of room. So we can make our Boolean same name equal whether our current name is the same as other room dot name. Now, will equals equals work in this scenario?
No. Oh, wait.
No, it will not, because name is a string and equals equals is going to check the reference. So in order to check if two strings are identical to each other, we need to use the equals method built into the string class. So name dot equals our other room dot name. So if they are the same, and now we have each of our four conditions, we can return same length and same width and same height and same name. If all of our things are the same as each other, we know that we have the exact same room. So let me check. Is my headphones working yet? Yes, they are. Okay. We are back in business with sound. Okay. So in here, instead of checking office equals equals basic room, we can check if office dot equals our basic room, because now we are calling the equals method that we have built into our room class. So we're calling equals with our office object, and we're passing our basic room as a parameter. So we can check if they're the same that way. If they're not, we can say those rooms are not the same. So if we run this, are these two rooms going to be the same? No, they will not be the same. But what we might be able to check is if the volumes for the rooms are the same. So they might not be the same exact room, but they might be the same size or the same volume. So let's check, let's do that. Let's actually make a variable for our volumes. So int basic room volume equals basic room dot get volume. And then we can just use basic room volume in here. And our int office room volume equals office.getVolume. So we can use our office room volume here. We can update our basic room volume after we change the height of our basic room. We don't need that int again because we're not redeclaring the variable. All we're doing is just changing the contents. That room has a volume of our basic room volume. And let's add that new line there. So it's possible that they do not have the same exact room, but it's possible that they might have the same volume. So let's add an else if here. All right. So else if office room volume is the same as basic room volume. So if our volumes are the same, then we can say system.out.print line. Those rooms have the same volume, but not the same dimensions. And if they don't even have the same volume, we can say those rooms are not the same at all. So let's see what this might look like if we run it. Oh, I forgot a semicolon. Typical. Let's try again. I forgot another semicolon. My goodness. There we go. All right, so our office has width of 10, height of 20, length of 15, which makes a volume of 3,000. Once we renovate the height of our basic room, our height is 30, and that room also has a volume of 3,000. So when we check, those rooms are not the same. They don't have the same width, height, and length. They're different sizes of room, but they do have the same volume. So we can say this if is false, but then we check this else if. That condition is going to be true. So when we check that, our volumes for our two rooms are going to be identical, which means that those rooms have the same volume, but not the same dimensions. And then else, if neither of those was true, we were going to print those rooms are not the same at all. So let's look at our study guide, see if there's anything that's our study guide. Anything else we want to discuss? We talked about relational operators. We can use equals equals and not equals to check if two things are the same or not the same. Greater than and less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. They check exactly what they say they're going to check. Our logical operators, not, and or. We use the ands in our program here to check if all of our dimensions are exactly the same and the name is the same, then we have the same room. We are using an if, else if, and an else. And we are doing some comparison of objects. We're both comparing our room objects, and we are also comparing some string objects within our equals method. All right. Are there any questions on what we've built here today? Any questions about anything on the study guide that you'd like me to cover a little bit better? Okay, then I will stop our recording.